So if you're at 1300 or lower than that, you're probably in the right place. I'm going to show you how to beat them. We're going to do a little bit of smurfing. We're going to play some 1300s and we're going to eradicate the competition. I'm going to show you exactly how to beat these guys. Let's get right into it. All right. So most of the time, our opponents are going to be able to play openings. This is a little hyper aggressive. Obviously, he's probably going to put the bishop here on f7. I think the knight is better off on f3, so this is probably a mistake. Knight f6 will block off that mating threat. You see, it's not really existent anymore. Queen h5 won't really work. And I think our opponent was a little too aggressive. I wonder if sacrificing on d5 makes sense. Just develop both knights. Notice how we have control of the center. This opponent is not going to be able to get his knight anywhere too good. And it looks like he's going for this d4 push. Okay. Um, what do I want to do here? Push d5, kettle the bishop. Probably not kettle the bishop, but let me think. Bang, pawn takes would be kind of bad for us, but bishop g4, nah, it doesn't really work. Let's um let's get the bishop out to f5, and I don't see any ridiculous checks where he could try to win this bishop back, and then d6 would close up the position. So what you have to note about our opponent is he's going to at least attempt to play a very aggressive game. When your opponent's pawn storming like this, you don't want to get your bishop trapped. So a6 is a great move. It prevents the pin and it also stops him from trapping your bishop completely, just going back to a7. 1300s are very, very aggressive, but they're not necessarily going to have these positions that are going to completely destroy you. Um, so h3, fine with me. Um, fine with me. What do I want to do here? Maybe just castle. Maybe just castle, right? I know d6 is probably a good move. I'm not in a rush to castle by any means. If he castles, we're gonna have a nice pin on f2. That'll probably be what we try to attack with. I'm wondering if pushing to b5 makes sense. If takes, then bishop takes, but that does open up his a file, which is probably good for him. Let's just go d6. I'm not actually in the biggest rush to castle because he's not creating any threats on the king side that are forcing me to get that castle in. G5, knight h5 wouldn't work. Um, he's just getting really aggressive with these pawns. H6, let's prevent the G5 push. Knight's probably going to come into G3 next. But notice that he's just not really going to castle long anymore. Well, I should say short, right? He's not going to castle short because this is just a disaster. But he is waiting for us to castle. Let's try a trick here. Bishop e6, bishop takes, pawn takes back, and then castling, leaving this wide open. And that could be a really nice tactic for us. Um, I think this is a mistake. Hmm. Where did the bishop go? So if I take here, the pawns double up on the c file, and we would have a target here on e4. Um, do I castle or do I take? There's a slight advantage to taking. But if he takes, I think it's a disaster if he takes. Let's just go ahead and take. There's a slight structural advantage here. It would help us control the center much better. I guess this push is coming. Takes, pawn takes back, knight e7. Um, that should be okay. That should be okay. We'll see what he's going to play here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's happening. Um, Yeah, I was predicting that knight g3 would be a possibility. With the whole point not to go to h5, but most likely to go to f5. I think this is a kind of a nice square for our opponent to hit. Um, Knight h7. Go for a little reroute here. We'll see if the knight comes. Oh, pawn takes. Might not work. Hmm. What is he doing here? Um, he has a lot of control over f5. Hmm. Let's try to put pressure on g4. Routing the knight back to f6 might not make sense, but we'll see. I was trying to prepare an f5 push, but there's just too much going on this particular square, where we're not going to get that same advantage that we thought we'd get earlier. So just be patient, guys. I know we're a little low on clock, and it's kind of easy to be concerned about that, but at some point, there should be an advantage that opens up. These are strong fundamental opponents, but there should be an opening soon. G5. Okay, so G5 is a problem. Um, I'm thinking maybe just pushing here. Pawn takes, pawn takes. I don't know. This is kind of scary. G5 could be an issue. If pawn takes back, and we don't want to open up the rook on the H file. Maybe we just push F5. I'm not sure. We'll see how that goes. Um, and then push E4. And we'll see if the queen wants to take. Nope. Um, what do I do here? Oh, okay, so he's going for discovered attacks here for sure. Let's just push this pawn. Um, and then get the rook. This should be good. Now we have a legitimate attack on F2, and we'll be able to load up our rooks here. Um, interesting. Okay, so there's definitely tactics. There's definitely tactics. Bishop takes could be interesting. Doubling up the rooks could be interesting. The knight doesn't necessarily have to. Hmm. We're not going to be down for long. Let's play rook takes and then maybe pawn takes here. We have plenty of defense. Even still, we have plenty of defense. Um, and then we'll slip the rook over to f8 and notice that we have an amazing attack. Okay, this is kind of scary. It's scary, but let's just keep getting our pressure on f2. Now we have doubled up rooks, and I'm sure he'll push the pawn. Nope. Um, okay. Interesting. I think we're in good shape here. I think we're in good shape here. I this looks to me like an ISO pawn, and then knight e5, and we're just threatening too many squares. Um, let's see what we can do here. Rook f2. Yeah, maybe rook f2 takes fork. Um, f2 takes fork. Rook e2. And I'm looking to double up the rooks on the second rank. And then maybe even, okay, this is no problem. If pawn takes back. So I actually completely fine with that. Let's go rook takes e3. And now we're also threatening c3 check and take. Okay. Bring the rook back, pin the knights, double up the rooks. Okay. This is a great rank to have the rooks on. The second rank, it's very powerful, and we're going to be able to exert at least some sort of advantage. If pawn takes back, like I said, he has to defend this knight, and he does in a unique way. If I took the knight here, pawn takes, and we wouldn't be able to stop this, would we? Well, okay, here's the thing. Takes push. That's kind of sneaky. Yeah, we got to take back. We can't get tricked there. These are strong opponents, and if you do take this knight here, it's completely losing. So rook takes, pawn push. Okay, there we go. So he protects the knight with the king, but now knight c4, it adds another attacker, and let's go knight takes. And now we're just completely winning. Our opponent will probably resign here. Interesting. Rook takes. Let's just play this out. Let's just play this out. Maybe I let up a bad move here. Okay. Um, check. Just is there some sort of fork or just something that could win us the game? That's kind of what I'm asking myself here. Attack this pawn. At some point, like if he took this pawn, at some point he'd be losing. Um, ah, there it is. This is tricky though. If we take this rook, he does resign here, but he does resign here. But if we took the rook, pawn takes, and is it that easy to stop him from promoting? I don't think so. Um, I don't know if we actually would even take the rook there. But either way, the fork is enough, and we get a win. Let's just keep going. All right, we got another opponent quickly. Let's play d4. We're gonna try to play structural, fundamental chess. C4. If pawn takes, yeah, perfect. So this is the Queen's Gambit. And most of the time, you'll see legitimate players won't take this pawn because we can just play e3 and it's impossible to defend the pawn on c4. He is trying though. He's going for b5 here. There's a nasty little trick though. So a4, and if he tries to defend this pawn now, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. If a6, pawn takes, pawn can't take back because rook's hanging. If interesting, okay. So I see what he's doing here. He's trying to defend with the bishop. It's a weird move, but I'm wondering what happens if I play queen f3, just attacking the rook right away and kind of forcing him to push the f6 pawn and then take, and then knight f3. And notice that we're threatening this bishop again because if pawn takes, rook's hanging. So he'll have to develop his knight somewhere weird. And I think this is already going to be a good position. Notice that he does have an extra pawn, but these pawns on the C file are doubled, and they're just kind of bad. They're bad pawns. Sometimes double pawns can be good if you're a structural player, but you usually want to have D and B pawns to create a structure. There's nothing you can really create here. You have ISO C pawns, and then you have an ISO A pawn as well. So as far as the structural battle is concerned, we are completely winning here. And he's gonna have to move his knight. There's no way around it. Okay. He doesn't move the knight. Interesting. What do I do here then? Um, bishop takes won't work, knight takes won't work because queen can take. Um, maybe we develop the knight or the bishop. I don't know. I mean, it's just what if I push the pawn on d5 as well? That would undouble the pawns though, right? But no, because then queen takes, and then bishop comes back to f5, and he's actually kind of okay. We'll develop our knight to either, yeah. Is he gonna try to pin us here? Let's get our bishop to stop that pin. Um, and now knight takes, I guess bishop takes, and king takes, which we don't love. Where's my bishop want to go? Um, let's go knight g3. The bishop's doing a pretty solid job protecting our knight. And later on, we have ideas of pushing d5 and winning this pawn here. But first, knight to e4, because there is a forking position. And I'm almost thinking he's going to castle, and I think we'll be able to capitalize because, well, first of all, bishop a5 is possible, and that trapped the queen after knight c5. So bishop a5 forces the queen to go to, I mean, most likely just b7. I guess he can get away with a6, and he would kind of have a pin, but still knight c5, and then That should be a decent attack. Um, our opponent is very content with just trying to pretty much win by a pawn advantage. I don't know if it's gonna work. And then knight c5 should be nice. And that forces queen c8. Um, and then after he moves over, probably just b3, I would say. Um, what else would I play there in b3? B3 is interesting because if pawn takes, bishop takes, and once again the rook's hanging. So he can't take. And I don't think he can really reinforce either, and he can't attack my minor pieces. He's dying to get rid of these ISO C pawns, but still, bishop takes is going to be nasty. Um, he maybe tries to trap the queen. Oh, bishop takes. And is he going to try to trap us? I don't know. The pawn pushes to b2, probably rook b1, and then castle. Um, should be okay. Knight develops anywhere and we trade queens. If he doesn't, we're just going to go back to f3. That's a really clean tactic there. He definitely wasn't expecting all those combination of moves. I'm a little hesitant to play knight takes b3 if it's available because it does open up this c file. And my queen, while it's not necessarily going to get taken right away, it may get taken eventually. I think the priority is to get the queen out of harm's way. Yeah, you see. Still, this does a couple of good things for our opponent, but I'm wondering if I can just play queen b7 anyway. Knight takes. He's attacking my bishop, which is interesting. I could put my bishop honestly on c3 and still play queen b7. And then is the knight going to go anywhere fun? I mean, he can push the pawn again. But the point is to block off B2. Castling could be kind of nice. Is there something he's gonna do to win the queen outright? I don't think so. Queen B7 does kind of release my situation a little bit. Um, I just don't like this B2 push, honestly. I could even get away with knight takes on B3, but I almost think that might hurt me in the long run. Let's go bishop C3, and now it becomes more reasonable to take on A7 as well. But queen B7, don't be fooled, is playable because the knight is here defending. And if he does push B4, which I kind of expect him to, bishop B2 would at least hold up these two ISO pawns. They're ISO, but now they are passed. If he was able to like reinforce these pawns, I'd be a little bit more concerned. Interesting. Um, let's try to trade queens here. Oh, oh wow. Maybe queen b5, pawn takes, pawn takes. I'm a little concerned, honestly. I'm a little concerned about this position. I think queen b5 is okay, but then pawn takes back, and I'm not castling anymore. I think I want to castle above anything else. I think I want to castle here, and then probably just pawn takes, I'd imagine. Pawn takes because I don't necessarily want him to take my bishop because my bishop's once again defending b2. And I could start chopping down on b5 and b3 eventually. Hmm. So you guys can kind of see how I'm getting these wins. It's about thinking outside the box. It's about understanding these opponents are very strong, but there are things we can do that they don't expect. Playing reasonable moves that you wouldn't think of off the top of your head, more often than not, will lead to losses. Or not losses, but maybe even positions, draws. You're not gonna leave this level until you can start to find the tactics that other people won't expect. I do see queen c2. I think it's kind of annoying. Queen c2 is annoying for sure. Um, pawn takes, queen c2, rook c1. Not bad. Not as bad as I thought. It's bad. I mean, the only thing is if I couldn't defend the bishop, it would be bad. But the fact is I can defend the bishop. Even, I mean, what else can I do though? I would love to take this pawn. The only thing is there's an order of operations. Like I had to protect the king. If I didn't have to protect the king, I would have started eating these pawns right away because they're my main concern in this position. But still, Queen C2 I think is interesting. Ooh, oh boy. This is a bad move, is it? I don't know if I'd classify this as a bad move because the knight can take. Yeah, but then the bishop would be defend attacking the rook, right? Like if he takes with the knight, I'm sure there's something I can do that's a little annoying. Like this. How does this turn out? Oh my God. Knight takes could be kind of annoying. What do I want to do here? Knight. It's gonna be something with this knight. Maybe takes. Knight takes, attacking the rook. Bishop takes. And then if he takes here, I win this knight. And the queen's not attacking anything. Like if the queen had support on the rook, I wouldn't like this as much, but let's win this other pawn. We're giving up the knight, and we are also sacrificing the rook, but we should get compensation. And in my opinion, slightly better compensation. We also get rid of his passed pawns. So there you go. Clean, right? I mean, it's not. It's probably going to be a little bit more difficult than I'm letting on, but he has to defend the knight. If he defends the knight, yep. And notice that we're gonna have a discovered attack with our bishop. And if he plays something like g6, I think it's made on the spot with bishop to h6. This was a really fun game. This particular game, there's so much information in here that I could honestly make it a video on its own, but um, probably best just to leave as is. So here comes the king. He created the correct escape square, but we have a substantial advantage here. Unfortunately, I can't really discover attack his pieces. Can I? Oh, that's mean. Bishop G7. Well, maybe I'm getting a little too cute here. Just take the knight, right? I was thinking about some stupid move where I sacrifice the bishop, but when I said to not go for the obvious moves, sometimes when you're up substantial material, you should go for the obvious moves. I just mean when you're trying to fight for that initial advantage, it's one of the hardest things to do in chess. So being able to pick the times when you do something crazy and sacrifice a knight and a rook, versus times where you know what, I could sack the bishop and maybe that would be winning, but it's probably the most sound and rational move to play. Just take with the rook. Now, rook a7 is a fun way to blunder what. Well, no, I guess if I really wanted to be ridiculous, I actually could play rook a7 and the queen can't go to b1. But oh man, it would be so stupid. Just play queen b2. Actually, okay. So I have two candidate moves. Queen b2 is what I was thinking at first because it would be a double attack on maiden one g7. But actually, queen b1, and we've trapped the queen, so the queen has to trade now, and he has no material left. So once again, just picking the most rational move possible. And we'll see if he makes us finish him off here. It looks like he might. Just rook b8, defend the bishop. Um, Bishop c5. I'm sure he'll start marching this pawn to the promised lands. Um, I don't think that'll be a good idea. We'll just win it. And some end games. Um, Really what we're looking for here is to avoid the stalemate, right? We don't want to draw him. We've played a beautiful game so far. And we're not trying to get the draw. So what I'm looking to do is isolate the king and try to keep him from essentially escaping, right? Um, there we go. So check, and then he's forced onto the last rank. And notice that his mobility is completely lost. He can't go anywhere. And I'm just gonna slip my king into the appropriate position and mate him. And he knows it. There's not much he can do. His king's gonna be moving back and forth, and these pawns are actually preventing him from drawing as well because there'll always be extra moves. Even moving the bishop out of the way to allow this G pawn to go. Let's go for another one. Let's go for a more wild opening here. We'll play f4, the bird's opening. If you want to throw off your opponents, sometimes you can do it by just playing f4. Um, this is obviously a strong opponent, but and you don't want to think too much about it. But I'll show you how to play this opening because it's one of my favorites. Knight f3 right away because we don't want the queen checking us. There's some dangerous mates that we would want to watch out for, and we create this structure here. If the knight ever goes to f6, we're going to pin it and sacrifice this bishop, or I should say exchange the bishop. And then we're going to kettle the dark square bishop and castle shorts. The knight will come to d2. And really, and yeah, in this case, we'll go bishop e2. Castle, kettle, and I still want to trade off this bishop, so maybe a lot of times we like the knight to go to e5. But this is a pretty solid setup for the birds. Um, I could play something kind of funny like knight g5. Um, I wonder if that would work actually. Knight g5 and then bishop. But then the bishop can actually come in and defend, which is kind of interesting. Like if I took here, you would think that this rook is lost, but bishop f6 would actually maybe be winning for him. But knight d4, it's a more functional move. We're threatening e6, and then even if he pushes the pawn, I think we can still put the knight on e6 kind of no matter what. Check, pawn comes down, and then bishop g4. So kind of just going to loosen up his structure here. And then he'll play g6 almost for certain. And he's just going to keep loosening up the structure. And look at this. There's the discovered attack now. Oh, okay. This is actually a pretty solid move. He's defending the rook, but what has he done? He's lost the other bishop, the power of the double bishop kettle. And you can see that we've officially taken that big time advantage. Now, I'm almost wondering knight c6, bishop takes. I think this is winning. Let's go knight c6. We're going to attack the queen. And then after he moves the queen out of the way, take with the bishop. He has to take the bishop back in order to prevent the rook from getting taken. And that's when we win the rook and then retreat the bishop back to f3. That's a nice one. This is a really nice one. Um, Double kettle your bishops. You're gonna throw people off in those types of situations. It's so mean. It's such a clever little way to get advantages. And you saw that the way I was developing that attack, he was either gonna lose this rook or this rook. It was really one or the other. Let's see if he pushes b5 and allows for knight a5 and then knight c6. No light square bishops. Okay. So, so we want to continue gathering that advantage. Um, Maybe queen d2. And then let's push d4. The whole idea here is if pawn takes, queen takes, pin the knight, double attack on d6. And we still kind of get that. Oh, okay. Yeah, knight takes back. That's kind of smart. Or that at least works for me. What if I play b4 and kind of attack that knight? I'm almost thinking he's definitely going to play e4 now I think about it. Um, Probably best just to get this file completely under our control. And now that pawn's out of the way, we have an outpost for our knight. And we're going to win the other rook. This is pretty strong. Notice how our opponent really was thrown off from the get-go with a really offbeat opening, like the birds. And from there, it was kind of hopeless. Yeah, this is getting bad for him. Let's play. Yep. Okay. GG's. You can see that queen takes knight would have been the best move. I would have almost played c4 at that point, and then if pawn takes, the queen's hanging. If pawn pushes, queen takes, pin, double attack. Maybe we play b4, just lodge the knight, queen d7. That was going to be pretty much bad from the start. If you go to the bird's opening position, you can see that we quickly were able to get a bishop on b2. And then on top of that, we were able to loosen up the dark squares and then play bishop f3. Our opponent saw this little tactic here of knight c6, attacking the queen and attacking the rook. So he goes ahead and defends, but he completely hangs his bishop. And from there, we kind of just dismantle our opponent. All right, guys, let's keep it going. So e4 once again, e5. And we're going to play into a more standard position here. It looks like the Roy Lopez. Now, I don't prefer to go for drawing lines, but Berlin is one of my favorite lines because there's so much theory that goes on in these types of positions that it's oftentimes best to get rid of the theory and just play your types of openings. Now, I would love to get my bishop on c5 and get this pin. Let's just get our bishops nice and active. Queen d7. And this isn't really pinning anything, and I'm actually not particularly interested in losing this knight just yet. Um, no, I'm definitely not. Let's bring the knight here, but then where does the knight? The knight has some good squares though. Um, let's play knight h5. I know there's the discovered attack, and he's playing kind of quick, but I don't really see this knight having anywhere that good to go. Um, yeah, let's do it. Knight f4. Pawn takes, and if he pushes the pawn here, I get my bishop on c5, kind of like I was planning. And look how loose the structure is. Interesting. Is there something I can do with this bishop? I have an idea. So bishop c5 to pin the pawn. And if he takes this bishop here, then pawn takes and f3. Then I don't see where else he'd really be going. Let's double attack the knight. And as you can see, we're going to be able to play f3, and we're immediately going to have some crazy chances in this game. On top of that, this pawn is pinned, so he can't stop us from going there. Um, okay. And then let's just play e5 in order to really solidify this pawn chain. And then we're probably going to look to play something like e2. Yeah. We don't want to lose this bishop just yet. Um, so if we back it up, we will lose it. Let's play queen e7. I know that's where we wanted to put our bishop e7, I should say. I know that's where we want to put our queen, but I'm not necessarily looking to give this position up. Queen e6. And you guys can see that this is definitely going to be very strong for us. Notice that h3 is now almost hanging. The queen's defending. But maybe something like, yeah, he's going to take the pawn. But then the rook is going to be in trouble here. What if I took pawn, rook takes, bishop, c5, forcing the rook to move over? Um, would that work? Let's try it. Let's get the bishop back, pinning this pawn. And then if I did take, I guess that doesn't really work. Let's try to get our rooks. Let's try to get our rooks onto the open file. And okay, he's he's really just doing this whole thing again. What do I want to do here? Maybe bishop d4. Let's try bishop d4. And if he plays something like rook d2, um, I'm wondering if we have a tactic already. But for now, queen h4 and then maybe h5. We're just trying to take the king's head off. That's really all this is. It's just your typical, really aggressive attack on the king side, and really based around and predicated around this f4 pawn. Now he's taken away an escape square for his knight. What if bishop e5 or yeah, let's go bishop e5. The rook can't go to d5. It's pawn. The knight can go here, but um, what do I want to do here? Okay, I see a tactic. Let's play b5, and then this is almost hanging. It's not though. It looks like it's hanging, but the queen is here. Make sure to see where all the pieces on the board are because this could be available later, but not just yet. If I get the pressure a little bit higher by playing queen h4, I wonder if that solicits a queen trade of some sort. Now, I know you can't play g3, but I'm wondering if he does something with his queen kind of out of fear of the position because h5 is coming. And I'm okay. So where's this knight coming? Here now? This is interesting. Um, if I play this, he's gonna fork, and that's kind of bad. If I play this, we actually lose our rook. What if I take here and then play here? No, it's not gonna work. Okay. And this pawn's hanging as well. Maybe I just take here, and then push this knight away. Push the knight away. If he goes here, then maybe I get away with this. Okay, he's just trying his hardest to win this piece. But if I take here and knight takes, queen takes, rook takes, is there's no attack on the queen, so maybe we just get a free pawn. Maybe. I don't see how this is a good idea because there's bishop back to e5 and there's a pin. And I can get a lot of pressure on f4 really quickly. Okay, there it is. There it is. He's attacking this pawn now. Solid. Solid idea. I can't go back here. I could go here to d4, but then after the pawn takes, this pawn's now hanging. Um, huh. If I put the queen back to f6, it does defend the bishop, and then I can play queen d4. I don't want him to eat my pawns. That's my whole deposition here. I would like to, if possible, protect the pawns, but if I can't do it, if he plays something like maybe e5 and bishop takes, knight takes, rook, queen takes, rook takes, sure, but then maybe I have some counterplay. We'll see. But I did just feel like this bishop was in a good spot. And also, I mean, on top of that, the queen defends c6. If this knight moves in any capacity, notice that I'm not allowing the knight to discover attack my queen or rook. Um, I could simply just take on b4. And that's another pawn. And then I could even play something like c5, regaining that pin, but also putting my bishop in a spot where it defends everything. So, yep, this line is going to become kind of forced. We'll see if he takes with the rook or the queen. He takes with the rook. Now, um, interesting. So my queen is protecting the pawn. I'm still up a pawn, right? Um, but really it's a question of what kind of advantage can I do? Like, can I win if I play queen a1 check? Probably not. Maybe rook f6 or or maybe rook d8. Um, let's try rook d8. The whole point is to try to maybe check on d1. This queen's been stuck the entire game, but I'm thinking here, here, here could be some sort of mating pattern with the pawn. Um, and then even without the pawn, I can probably play something like g5 next. I'm just thinking about how to end this game. That's always been the strategy. The second that king became loose, it's just how can I win this game? How can I win with checkmate? So he offers a trade of queens. I'll probably gladly accept that. No, I won't. I think rook d1, and then that's probably gonna be mate. Maybe. Um, or can I sacrifice the queen? I mean, there's two options here, right? I could play sort of the safe way, queen takes queen, rook takes back, and then probably just like rook d7, g5, protect the pawn structures, and I'm up a pawn, so that's good. But why do I just feel as though check? The only thing I'm not sure about is here. Um, check there. Um, and then maybe here, but then pin is bad. Not bad, but um, no, because if even if he pins me, then rook h1 is me. Okay, let's just do it. Check. It forces, and really what he'll see, that's a mistake, I think. I think that's a mistake. Um, queen d5 or queen e4. I was thinking something like h2, but after queen d5, I thought he was going to try to pin my queen to the king, but then rook h1 would have been mate because the pawn's there. But here, I think the situation's a lot easier. I think we just win a queen. So I like queen d5 just because it's sound and it holds the position together. Plus, if he drops the pawn, I can play rook d2. Or even, I don't know, queen d2, probably rook d2. Yep. And this is what I was expecting. And really, the reason why this is winning is because of a diversion tactic. Rook g1. And in this situation, he has to take, and that leaves the queen all by itself. Now in this situation, we're just going to try to pick off this last rook. Check. If here, then here. Um, and then if he goes here, we'll win the rook. And he'll resign. I think he'll resign. Or he'll make us sweat it out. I don't know. That was fun.